I was there. I went to the rally to talk about the issues facing Western Pennsylvania. I'm from that part of the state. I was sitting on the media riser about 30 yards right in front of the president when it happened. Yes, it was crazy and tragic, with the president being shot in the head, Corey Comparator. He was killed and 2 others were shot and critically wounded. It's a moment I'll never forget. I initially thought our president was killed. None of us will ever forget it either. So the next day, though, I stayed in Butler to continue our coverage. And you know what the first thought was that came to my mind? How in the world did a 20-year-old kid from the suburbs of Pittsburgh outsmart the highest levels of security our country can offer? I think it's pretty much unbelievable, and it still is to this day. Thomas Matthew Crooks, everybody, of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. This kid, he outsmarted everyone there. Part of me wishes he was still alive, maybe so we could hire him for consulting, because clearly he knew more than the Secret Service did. Now, obviously, I say that tongue-in-cheek, but you get my point. And that's why we're still talking about it so much today. My brain cannot comprehend how a 20-year-old kid got away with actually being able to fire off the shots. These are the facts of it on the Congress website here in their investigation. I'll start with this. Crooks was photographed as a suspicious person 62 minutes before he opened fire, and snipers spotted him 20 minutes before the shooting. Goes on. At 5:10 p.m., Crooks was first identified as a person of interest. 5:30 p.m., Crooks was spotted with a rangefinder. At 5:52 p.m., Crooks was spotted by the roof, by Secret Service on the roof. At 6:02 p.m., Trump takes the stage then at 6:12. You see how my brain can't comprehend any of this, that snipers saw him on the roof with a rangefinder 10 minutes before President Trump took the stage. Why was he allowed to take the stage? Here's more on this. From the time Crooks fired his first shot to the gunman being killed was just 26 seconds, according to law enforcement officials. I think the language there in that report's a little bit messed up. I think the word just should be replaced with this. It should say it took snipers an excruciatingly long time, 26 seconds, to take him out. Let's run an exercise right now. I'm going to count for a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could go on and on. You see, 26 seconds, it's an eternity, especially in a moment like that. I want to bring this up just as well. At 5:10 p.m., Crooks was first identified as a person of interest. At 5:30, Crooks was spotted with that rangefinder. At 5:52 p.m., Crooks was spotted by the roof, on the roof by the Secret Service at 6:02 p.m. So you're telling me here the person of interest who was in the security zone looking around with that rangefinder was spotted on the roof, okay? A little bit more clarity in that. The rally should have been over. President Trump, hey, get him out of here. We're leaving. Look, there's all kinds of crazy stuff that went on with this. Like this as well. People on the ground filming and yelling for someone to do something when they saw Crooks on the roof. I can't for the life of me understand how in the world that this happened now. I know hindsight is 20/20, but looking back on it, this should have been easily prevented. This one should have been easy, everybody. And that's why we have to talk about it like this again. Like I said, it makes no sense whatsoever. So when you lay it out all on the table like this, I think you come down to 2 possibilities, right? One being it was just a complete screw up, the worst of all time, or there was something else going on. And you would think our federal agencies would want to be transparent about this. Now, obviously, I say that jokingly. When does that actually happen? But if you think about all the stones and them being overturned, the investigation, they got to the bottom of it. I hate to tell you this, that's just not the case. They have not. I just interviewed Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, which is going to air over the weekend. And you may not know this, he chairs the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. He was also the co-author of last year's bipartisan Senate Homeland Security Committee report on the assassination attempt in Butler. He's planning to subpoena the FBI and the DOJ over this because he can't get access to the people who were involved with this at the FBI and the DOJ. Over a year later, and President Trump is back in office, and there are still people who aren't willing to play ball. So now he has to start slinging around subpoenas. Think about that. I just talked to him a couple hours ago. Again, the interview is going to air this Sunday. Now, you have to ask yourself, why won't people play ball? If it's just a major screw-up, own up to it. Have some guts, right? But to my point, maybe it's something else, and we don't know yet. And neither do members of Congress. You know, Senator Johnson said for a while he was making some progress with things. was getting there, talking to people, then all of a sudden it just came to a screeching halt. It was a roadblock after roadblock for him. Well, look at this. This kind of syncs up with what he's talking about. The FBI, they got an official website dedicated to the updates on the Butler investigation. And you see what the last update is, the date? It was this time last year. Nothing since then. Nothing in a year. Seems kind of weird, adds up with what Senator Johnson was saying. The top line revelation in that report was the fact that investigators, they were finally able to crack open Crooks's phone. Okay, cool. What was in it? I'd like to know. I think we all would like to, right? Why did the updates just stop? Anyways, the whole thing, it's still a mess, big mess, still is. And as it stands right now, the only explanation of what went wrong is this here. I can sum it up real quickly for you. A 20-year-old from outside of Pittsburgh walked into the secure zone at the rally with a rifle. He climbed onto the roof of the building, which would be perfect for shooting at the president, and he did just that, and they knew about him for over an hour, and no one did anything until he actually started firing. But it was just a big mistake. None of it makes sense.